We decided to move into staff housing at the hospital.
This was a very big deal for me to get this job.
The door was only the tip of the iceberg.
I always felt like someone was watching me.
It was really getting into our daughter's mind.
It was a claw mark.
I was terrified.
Clinical social worker Melissa Mackey Brown has just moved to a new town after landing an exciting job in a psychiatric hospital.
Kitchen?
This promotion was an opportunity to serve the hospital in a greater capacity and to expand my skills.
Yes, of course.
We had sold our house in North Carolina, and we were able to obtain staff housing at the hospital.
Her husband, Bob, is nearing retirement as an assistant principal at a local high school.
Well, I was within range of retirement, and we needed just a place really to stay until we decided to move.
It'll do.
It'll do?
I think we're gonna need a little bit of a bigger spot.
Yeah, maybe.
I was happy with her getting the job and being able to live in the staff housing. It was economical for the family.
I had never experienced any kind of paranormal events. I didn't believe in ghosts or any kind of thing like that. I always believed that there was a rational explanation for these kinds of occurrences. The house had been vacant for a number of years, but it had been readied for move-in, and so we were happy with the condition of the house. It wasn't entirely updated, but as far as the electrical and plumbing, all of that was in good working order. First time I heard this, I could hear the sound of the hinges being opened.
Mom?
Yeah, it's okay, honey. I just got startled again. Sorry about that. You know what? I'm gonna go check it out. Maybe Daddy left a window open, okay? Be right back.
I thought it was a draft. No, I didn't think anything more than that. The basement was kind of a foreboding area. I explored, tried to find a reason why it was doing that. I just didn't feel a draft down in the basement. I didn't feel any kind of cross current. I kind of denied that this could be something more than just an oddity about the house. So it was just one of those things that we couldn't figure it out. I really didn't think a whole lot of it. It's an older house. Just that there was something wrong with the way the air flowed through the house.
Just an old house.
Melissa takes additional precautions to stop the door from opening.
I am going to lock this door so it stops doing that. All right, let's go back to bed.
The door would open on its own about 5 to 6 times a week.
We heard the squeaking of the hinges at times when the door would open.
But the odd thing was that it would open about the same time. And it always happened between 9:30 and 10 o'clock at night. That was about her bedtime, so it would happen about the time that we were putting her to bed.
I don't know. It seems to be working fine.
Regardless of how much we tried to secure the door, it kept opening.
Can you put another latch on it or something?
Will it make you feel better if I do? We'll try another latch then. All right.
On many cases, you'll find that a similar type of activity or the same exact activity happens at the same time every night. It's very possible that the door is opening because of a specific event that happened in the past where an imprint has been left there or a spirit is returning there over and over at the same time.
Over the next few weeks, the door ceases to open and close. Bob and Melissa feel more at ease in the house and decide to take a quick trip.
At one point, my husband and I had to go out of state for some personal matters, and so we left our daughter behind to stay with a friend. This friend was like a sister to me, and I had no trouble trusting her implicitly to take care of my daughter. We hadn't told my friend about any of the unusual occurrences that were happening in the house. I still thought perhaps there would be some sort of explanation. She said she was sitting and she could see the basement door. She looked up and saw it opening. So she got up and she shut it. A few moments later, the door opened again. And she got up to shut it. But that time, when she reached out, it pulled back on her. The door opening like it did mysteriously was only the tip of the iceberg.
After moving into staff housing, clinical social worker Melissa Mackey Brown experiences strange events that cannot be explained.
And she saw, standing at the bottom of the basement stairs, the figure of a woman. It was shortly after 1 o'clock in the morning when I got a call from my friend, and she said, "Melissa, you need to come back.
Lila's fine, but
I've seen an apparition."
You just have to come home now, please. Please just come back now, you promise?
It must have scared the hell out of you.
My heart sunk when I heard her describe that, and all I could think about was getting my daughter out of the house. I felt slightly guilty that I hadn't shared with her the experiences that we had been having in the house.
We felt strongly that my wife's best friend was not making it up. She said, there are young children in the house, you need to leave, and it faded out. And a few minutes later, reported to us that she heard our washing machine start up. It felt like we had entered the twilight zone.
My friend was very afraid, and that's why she called us and told us we had to turn around and make a 6-hour trip back home that night.
was a lot of fear in my wife when she heard the story, and of course I was very concerned because our daughter was there with my wife's friend.
But back home, Melissa and Bob's daughter is just fine and blissfully unaware of the fright. And for one day, life seems to be back to normal. But arriving home, Melissa is greeted with some startling news.
My daughter said, "Mommy, who's that lady going into my room?" She was adamant that there was a lady who had come down the hall and gone into her room.
Melissa immediately wonders if there's been a breach at the psychiatric hospital nearby.
There was always the potential that one of the patients who had committed crimes such as rape or murder had escaped and had gone down into the staff housing area.
That was a big fear that Melissa had a number of times that she shared with me because patients occasionally would escape. I did not see anything when I checked the room out after my wife told me what our daughter had seen. I checked in the closet and checked under the bed to make sure that there was nobody in the house.
There was no one there. And so I told my daughter, "There's nobody here."
Afraid of the strange figure that she saw in her room, Melissa's daughter now wants to sleep with her parents.
She really was frightened at this time.
She wasn't prone to hyperbole or making things up. She was a child who determined she wanted to be a scientist from very early in her life.
She draws a picture of what she has seen in her room.
And she said that she was wearing a long white dress and had long hair. So when she described this image of a lady going into her room, which she said was somewhat transparent, but enough of a form of a human that she could identify it as a lady, I began to put two and two together. I was getting to be afraid that there were things happening in the house that we couldn't explain, and they're happening more frequently and more intensively than I was afraid.
And looking back, she had every reason to be frightened.
Once you start focusing on a spirit that might be in the home, you may be adding a little more fuel by recognizing it's there. Many times people report activity getting worse, having psychological issues after that, or even feel like they are emotionally being impacted by something that has elevated.
Hey, hon.
Okay.
I borrowed this tape recorder from work. Think I'm gonna set it up downstairs, see if it picks up anything.
We decided to record any sounds that a tape recorder would pick up in the house at night. In case we would hear something unusual that would support the door opening like it did. But I didn't think we were going to hear anything, quite frankly.
Clinical social worker Melissa Mackey Brown is looking into strange events that frightened her friend and her daughter. The next morning, Melissa and Bob go to retrieve the tape recorder.
You got anything?
We were eager to see if there was something on the tape. So I was looking for physical evidence that there was something weird going on, something spooky going on in the house.
being scientifically trained, we would like to see evidence, but we wanted auditory evidence as well. After a few minutes, we began hearing this whooshing kind of sound, and it continued into a higher pitch, and then it got louder and an even higher pitch, and it reached this crescendo of this very eerie sound. I can't describe it. I've never heard anything like it. And then a few minutes later, you would hear random doors shutting.
Then there'd be the sound of footsteps and of things being dropped. At one point, it sounded like whirling wind taking place.
And then a few minutes after that, that whooshing noise started up again, and it got louder and louder and rose into this higher pitched crescendo, and at the highest pitch of that crescendo, it would make your hair stand on end. And then at the peak of the crescendo, you would hear a door slam really loudly, so it would make you jump.
There's got to be an explanation.
It was terrifying because there was no doubt that there was a presence there, and it was making itself known to everyone, and it was able to make itself known in visual form and in auditory form.
Hearing that terrified us. We felt that there was something evil going on in the house.
There it is again.
I don't know what it is.
In many cases, we have people that report all kinds of physical events going on or psychic experiences who might not believe that themselves. And they quite often will negate the experience or believe that it's something normal or other than a paranormal event. But when a spirit looks at that person, when a spirit identifies that person is somewhat open and can recognize that they exist, they do try to communicate.
I can't.
Wait, hon. Wait.
Despite the strange events, Bob and Melissa feel they need to put off the financial stress of moving for as long as they can. They hope by ignoring the problem, it will go away.
So one morning, my husband had an early breakfast meeting.
Good luck at your meeting.
Thanks. Bring home a pizza for dinner?
Yes, that'd be so nice.
Okay.
I thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye move down the hallway. It clearly wasn't a shadow. It was a transparent mist-like form that was about as tall as I am, but it appeared to be heading toward my daughter's bedroom. I knew it was the same thing that my daughter had seen, and I felt like it was getting more intense in its ability to make itself into a very visible form.
Melissa tells her husband what she has seen.
And my husband, for the first time, says, well, as a matter of fact, it was about 2 weeks after we moved in. Everyone else was asleep.
I told my wife that I'd seen the figure of a woman standing at the foot of our bed. And she was dressed in a white robe with long, blondish type hair. It happened very quick, but I was not dreaming. I had my eyes open and saw this, and it very, very fast disappeared. But at this point, I was really scared of what could happen potentially to my family. At the time, I felt like maybe I was just dreaming it. I wasn't sure of what I'd seen. But the later events convinced me that I had seen something for real. I told my wife the reason I didn't share with her is I did not want to frighten her.
I was mad because I thought, you should have told me this before. Because if you had told me this before, we would have left, whether you wanted to or not. I wanted to leave. I was afraid for my daughter. I was afraid for myself. My husband was even afraid at that point. We were just a few short months away from when we were going to move out anyway, with my husband's retirement. I saw that switch go down, as if someone had reached out and flipped the switch, and it left me in the dark in the hallway. That was as clear as day. I wish I had imagined it. But it was clear as day, clear as I'm speaking now.
When aggressive physical activity breaks out, sometimes it's best to heed those warnings and make sure it's not a threat against the living.
Stop. Stop it.
Well, I was feeling very scared, and that was the last straw for me. I felt at that point that this thing was signaling that it was there, that it was real. And it had a message for me.
You win. I'm sorry, okay? We'll leave. You win.
I was terrified because I knew we were no longer safe in that house.
Please, 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 please. Listen to me. We'll leave. We'll do anything. We'll get out of here. Please, just leave us alone.
And I told the air, or whatever was there listening, this is your house now. You can have it. I'm leaving.
Just leave us alone. Please, just leave us.
You spoke to it.
Yes. I didn't see it, but I knew it was there, and I spoke to it.
Why did you feel the need to speak to it?
Because I wanted it not to do anything else before I could get out.
Please listen to me. Just leave us alone, okay? We'll do anything you want. We'll get out of here. You win. You win, okay? Please, just leave our family alone.
I'm leaving because I felt like what it was doing was communicating to me that it did not want me there.
No, not her. She's only a baby. Please.
There was evil in that house, and I was afraid of what would happen next.
Strange events in staff housing so terrorize Melissa Mackey Brown that she decides it's time for the family to leave.
All I could think about was getting my daughter out of the house.
I was very concerned over the continued safety of my daughter and my wife being at home by herself. And that's when we made the action to move from this home.
Spirits are quite attached to the locations they inhabit. There's something emotionally or psychologically connecting them there. Usually it's an area where, while alive, was a place of comfort for them, or that was a place of solitude, and they're very protective of the area that they're in.
As they look for a new home, Melissa is driven to investigate.
The hospital's facility management department managed the staff housing. And I decided to go and ask her if anyone had experienced in the past anything unusual or reported anything unusual about this house.
She's not told of any unusual events, but she discovers that this hospital staff housing has lain vacant for many years. She is provided with security photos taken before the family moved in.
She hadn't seen anything at the time that she took that shot, but when she later developed the film, this figure of a woman was standing in the window.
Was it a familiar figure to you?
The figure in the window was of a woman with long hair, and it looked like the same figure that my daughter had described, that my friend had described, and what we had seen.
But when I saw the photo, it validated what we had been thinking, that there was something supernatural going on in the house and something spooky going on. I felt very strongly that there was a female spirit that was in our house.
It was the night before we were to move out of the house. We were awakened about 3 o'clock in the morning.
It sounded like someone in distress, not a sound that I'd ever heard from my daughter before.
It was like a wailing as if she were in pain.
Oh my God. Baby, 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 wake up, wake up. Wake up, sweetheart. Excuse me. What's wrong with you? Baby, 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 baby. Oh my God, stop it! Leave her alone! Stop!
It was really getting into our daughter's mind and affecting her in a way that made it clear that we needed to get out of there to protect her.
I thought that she was being possessed or oppressed by some evil demonic spirit.
You okay? Oh my God. Are you okay? Are you okay?
It felt like, as we were preparing to leave, that it had a very negative message for us. More than ever, we had to get out now.
Let's go back to bed. I'm done.
I thought it was very much like a standoff between good and evil because of the things that it had done and in the way it had done them, in ways that were frightening.
Bob and Melissa wake up and start packing their belongings.
In a case where you have a spirit affecting people physically and affecting the environment, just because the living move out doesn't mean that the ghost is going to go away as well.
I was very relieved to leave that house. I think what was going on in that house was whatever was in that house felt that the house belonged to them. And they didn't appreciate the intrusion and would prefer for us not to be there. That's how I interpret it.
Data analyst Melissa Miller has just landed her first job in medicine at a private psychiatric hospital.
I remember driving up to the hospital for the first time, and it was just this really old, ominous-looking building. It's completely excluded from everything. I didn't even know it was there until I got the job. I liked the job because it was getting me into a field that I wanted to be in, starting from the ground up. This was a big break for me.
Come on, I'll give you a tour.
The building was definitely creepy. It was very nice, but it was just like an old horror film.
Everyone here is pretty friendly to work with.
Within hours, Melissa settles in to her new job.
I would collect the data packets, sit down at my desk, auditing the data, did some filing.
Are you heading out?
I'm just gonna finish up with these.
When I started working, they were backlogged, and I wanted to get them caught up and I guess, look good, because I wanted a permanent job there.
Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.
There was definitely a difference working night than there was during the day. At night, if you heard something, it was a little more creepy, especially since they turned all the lights off. Because patients lived in the hospital, you would hear once in a while, a patient screaming just because it's a psychiatric hospital. I can say it was creepy just because of how dark it was.
Melissa soon needs to leave the comfort of her office.
It was quite a trip for me to walk from my office to the bathroom. There was these very dim lights walking down the hallways. And walking through the hospital gave me that ominous, creepy feeling. Everything seemed very still all of the time. It was completely different. It felt completely isolated.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you.
Even little things at work become very unsettling, but reasonable fears will soon give way to the inexplicable.
I never in a million years thought I would experience anything paranormal.
Melissa Miller's new job at a psychiatric hospital has her on edge.
The women's bathroom was one place in particular that I felt this really heavy, paranoid feeling that I was being watched. I felt like there was someone in there at all times, even when I was alone. I always felt like someone would grab my leg under the stall. I wanted to get in there and then out as quick as possible. Coming out of the bathroom, I was walking down one of these corridors. When I heard these footsteps, I primarily thought it could be patients. That particular area of the hospital was just so isolated from everything else. That heavy feeling that I got in the hospital was starting to get to me. I had no idea what was going to happen in that place. I was a little scared because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to explain it. I ran straight back to my desk.
Melissa is left with unsettling questions she can't answer.
I'm a very analytical person. I've worked with data all my life. So to believe in ghosts or the paranormal is very hard for me to grasp. My mom is really into the paranormal and she believes, but I've never truly believed.
But after the strange events at work, Melissa is left with no choice but to question her lack of belief in the paranormal.
I guess I explored it just to, by chance, experience something that would change my mind. It's almost like I wanted to experience something. I think I wanted to prove to myself that there was no such thing as paranormal. And I thought, okay, well, if anyone's gonna talk to me, it's gonna be my grandfather. So I was out in the cemetery where my grandfather is buried, and this wasn't long after he had passed away. I was at his gravesite, and I had one of those little recorders, and I put the recorder there and didn't say a word. I was hoping to connect with him in some way or just hear his voice again because, you know, I was very close with him.
EVPs, or electro voice phenomena, are something that paranormal investigators work with all the time. These are voices that are not heard audibly by the human ear, but once recorded, you could go back and listen to the recording and pick out voices or words that are imprinted on the recorder.
I sat there for probably a good 15 minutes. I felt like if I didn't hear anything, then that's like solid proof to me that there's no such thing.
So you were torn.
Yeah, I was definitely torn between wanting to hear something and wanting there to be just complete silence or crickets in the background. I didn't believe in the paranormal, but now I had to.
Melissa is still reeling from hearing her grandfather's voice on the recording. Not believing what just happened, Melissa feels compelled to play the recording once more.
I didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't know what it was, and I didn't want to look like a crazy person.
No, I know. You think I'm crazy, but you need to hear this.
But the tape is too scary to listen to alone.
There, here. There. Did you hear that?
The whisper and the words it said, there just was no possible other person it could have been. I hear a man's voice say, "The shed is empty." We had just finished cleaning out my grandfather's apartment, and all of his belongings were put in a shed, and they were just taken away that morning.
I can't wait to play for my mom.
When you go looking for something and you are opening yourself up to experience the paranormal, you're really opening yourself up to experience anything. And in Melissa's case, that seems to be what happened here. She opened herself up to experience something, and something stepped forward.
I felt like I had tried my hand at the paranormal. I had a positive experience, and little did I know that later on I would have another paranormal experience, but a negative one. One day I felt something or someone very uncomfortably close to the back of my neck and felt a heat on the back of my neck, almost like breath. I literally went from feeling this thing or presence behind me to feeling a scratch on my face. The mix of feeling something behind me and then feeling something burn my face kind of got me really worked up. The experience definitely scared me. It was red and raised. To me, it looked like it was a claw mark on my face. The scratch was definitely not caused by me. Nothing else around that could have touched my face. It was painful enough for me to grab my left eye and just run out of the bathroom.
So there's a lot of pain?
Yes. It was more like a burning sensation, but I can actually feel the scratch go down my face. My face was still burning, but I didn't tell anyone because I felt like I was attacked by an unseen thing. It would have definitely been detrimental to my career, and I just didn't want to risk losing this job. But at the same time, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to explain it. It kind of got me really worked up, and I just ran out. I'm definitely not the type of person who scares very easily. This was without a doubt one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had.
We've worked a lot of cases where we do believe we found dark entities, which are very negative beings that often cause very horrible psychological or physical effects to someone who might not be your traditional demon that you would find out of the Holy Bible. But in any event, the repercussions, the outcome could be just as bad.
I couldn't shake the fear. It was just terrifying. I definitely think that I gave all of that ghost hunting stuff up after that, just because I really don't think I want to know any more than that. I like to live in my logical, data-driven world, and I didn't want to, go anywhere beyond that.